Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video, we had discussed about chapter 2 of the Indian Penal Code 1860. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. In today's video, we are going to talk about chapter 3 of the Indian Penal Code. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand the substance therein. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe to my channel to get the video notifications. So let's get started. So today we are going to talk about chapter 3, which deals with punishments. Now, in order to understand what is punishment, we need to understand the theories of it. So punishments are of different kinds. Whenever a person commits a crime, then he will be punished according to the Indian Penal Code or some other law. But there are different theories of punishment or different types of punishment. However, the various types of punishments are divided into mainly 5 categories, or also known as theories of punishment. So these theories are not expressly written in the Indian Penal Code. I'm just explaining it for the sake of better understanding about the term punishment. So what are the theories of punishment? There are 5 theories of punishment. They are deterrent theory, preventive theory, reformative theory, retributive theory, and expiatory theory. So every such theory of punishment follows a particular set of principles. Say for example, the deterrent theory involves punitive actions to set dreadful consequences to deter the wrongdoer, such as forming sentinels or hotspot policing, etc. The preventive theory involves the idea of preventing the repetition of crime through imprisonment, fine, etc. used on general offences. The reformative theory involves curative punishment, considering crime as a disease and treating it by helping with reformation used on heinous offenders. The retributive theory involves vengeance theory, or believes in an eye for an eye by inflicting proportionate punishment in response to a crime. The expiatory theory involves compensation to victim from the wrongdoer. So all these theories follow different methods of justice system. Now in India, basically we have the preventive theory, the reformative theory, and the expiatory theory, which is practiced the most. We do not have any retributive theory or deterrent theory as such. Now let's understand section 53 that talks about punishments. It is a very important section, so I have highlighted this section. It talks about punishments. The punishment to which the offenders are liable under these provisions of this code are firstly death. So we inflict a death sentence on the most heinous offenders. Secondly, we have a provision for imprisonment for life. That is a classic example of preventive theory. Now then we have imprisonment, which is of 2 descriptions, namely rigorous, which is with hard labor, and simple. So that is also a part of the preventive theory. Now after that we have forfeiture of property, and then we have fine. Now in India, death sentence may be awarded only in a selected and limited number of crimes. They are waging war against the government of India under section 121, abetting mutiny actually committed under section 132, giving or fabricating false evidence upon which an innocent person suffers death, that is under section 194, murder, that is under section 302, murder by a life convict, that is under section 303. Now section 303 is held unconstitutional. Abatement of suicide of a minor, insane or intoxicated person if suicide is committed under section 305. An attempt to murder by a life convict if hurt is caused under section 307. Kidnapping for ransom under 364A, and dacoity with murder, that is under section 396. So in all these cases we have death sentence that can be awarded as a form of punishment against such crimes. Now in the recent times, The constitutional validity of death sentence had been challenged in various cases before the Supreme Court, but it has been held that death penalty is neither arbitrary nor unreasonable under Article 14, nor is it violative of the right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. That has been followed and cleared off by the Supreme Court of India. Now, imprisonment for life necessarily it means rigorous imprisonment and cannot be simple imprisonment, and it is awarded only in a few cases, that are waging war against the government of India under section 121, murder under section 302, or kidnapping for ransom under section 364A. Now, rigorous imprisonment is a form of imprisonment that involves hard labor, and it is basically awarded in offences such as robbery, dacoity, etc. Now, simple imprisonment is perhaps the most inflicted punishment, that is a confinement of the offender in jail. It does not, however, involve any hard work or labor by the offender, and in certain offences under the IPC, simple imprisonment is provided. For example, we can say uttering words or making gestures to insult the modesty of a woman under section 509, or appearing in a public place in drunken condition under section 510. In all these cases, a simple imprisonment can be awarded. There are, however, a number of other offences as well where simple imprisonment can be awarded. Now, let's move on to section 53A that talks about construction of reference to transportation. It basically says that subject to the provisions of subsection 2 and 3, any reference to transportation for life in any other law for the time being in force, or in any instrument or order having effect by virtue of any such law or any enactment repealed, shall be construed to as imprisonment for life. So what happens is that during the British period, we had a punishment called the transportation for life. That means that person would be transported from the mainland to any island, and he will be imprisoned in that island overseas. That would be known as the transportation for life. We presently do not have any such kind of punishment. So wherever it is mentioned as transportation for life, that would be considered as imprisonment for life. That is what section 53A talks about. So you can understand from the section that it is an amendment section, and it has been amended after the independence of India. Since the code was enacted in 1860, prior to independence, then it was considered as transportation for life. Presently, we do not have that punishment available in India right now. So any such instance where any such mention of transportation for life is there, that will be considered as imprisonment for life. Now, in every case in which a sentence for transportation for a term has been passed before the commencement of the Code of Criminal Procedure, the offender shall be dealt with in the same manner as if sentenced to rigorous imprisonment for the same term. Now, any reference to transportation for a term or to transportation for a shorter term by whatever name called in any other law for the time being in force shall be deemed to have been omitted. So we can understand that that has been omitted. Now, any reference to transportation in any other law for the time being in force shall, if the expression means transportation for life, then it will be thought to be imprisonment for life, and if the expression means transportation for a shorter term, then it will deem to have been omitted. So the provision of transportation has been omitted, and anything that is transportation for life is now thought to be imprisonment for life. Section 54 talks about commutation of death sentence. In every case in which sentence of death has been passed, the appropriate government may, without the consent of the offender, commute the punishment for any other punishment provided by this court. So it is basically the power of the appropriate government to do so. The offender has nothing to do with it. Now, section 55 talks about commutation of sentence of imprisonment for life. In every case in which sentence of imprisonment for life shall have been passed, the appropriate government may, without the consent of the offender, commute the punishment for imprisonment of either description for a term not exceeding 14 years. So wherever an imprisonment for life is awarded, any appropriate government may commute the punishment to a term not exceeding 14 years. So that appropriate government will have that power. Now, section 55A talks about definition of appropriate government. It says In sections 54 and 55, the expression appropriate government means in cases where the sentence is a death sentence for an offence against a matter in which executive powers of the union extends, then that appropriate government will be considered to be the central government. And in cases where the sentence, whether death or not, is for an offence against any law or any matter to which executive power of the state extends, the government of the state within which the offender is sentenced will be considered as the appropriate government. Now, fractions of terms of punishment is discussed in section 57. It says that in calculating fractions of terms of punishment, imprisonment for life shall be reckoned as equivalent to imprisonment for 20 years. Now, section 60 talks about sentence may be in certain cases of imprisonment wholly or partly rigorous or simple. In every case in which an offender is punishable with imprisonment, which may be either description, it shall be competent to the court which sentences such offender to direct. So, it is the court who is awarding such sentence. That court will direct in that sentence that which part will be rigorous and which part will be simple. Or if the court so thinks fit, then it may make such imprisonment wholly rigorous or wholly simple. Or it may make any part rigorous and rest of the part simple. Say for example, the court has awarded 7 years of imprisonment. Now the court may also award that the first 4 years or 5 years will be simple imprisonment and then the rest of the 2 or 3 years will be rigorous imprisonment. So whether it is wholly or in part or of any other description, that will be decided by the court who is awarding such sentence. Now section 63 talks about amount of fine. It says where no sum is expressed to which a fine may extend, the amount of fine to which the offender is liable is unlimited but shall not be excessive. So where the fine is not mentioned, then any amount of fine can be imposed upon such offender. The amount will be unlimited. But the only consideration that the court has to make in that particular award of punishment of such fine is that that fine shall not be excessive. Now section 64 talks about sentence of imprisonment for non-payment of fine. It says in every case of an offence punishable with imprisonment as well as fine, in which the offender is sentenced to a fine whether with or without imprisonment, and in every case of an offence punishable with imprisonment or fine or with fine only, in which the offender is sentenced to a fine, then in all those cases it shall be competent to the court which sentences such offender to direct by the sentence that in default of payment of fine, the offender shall suffer imprisonment for a certain term. So wherever a fine is imposed upon a person, then the court will also mention in that sentence as to what amount of or what term of imprisonment will be inflicted upon such offender if he fails to pay such fine. But such imprisonment shall be in excess of any other imprisonment which may be awarded. So that person has been awarded an imprisonment and a fine along with such imprisonment. Now that person has failed to pay the fine. So an additional amount of imprisonment will be attached to the main imprisonment for default of such fine. Now section 65 talks about limit to imprisonment for non-payment of fine when imprisonment and fine awardable. So the term for which the court directs the offender to be imprisoned in default of payment of fine shall not exceed 1/4 of the term of imprisonment, which is the maximum fixed for such offence. So say for example, if the punishment for a particular offence is 10 years of imprisonment and along with that a fine of 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees has been awarded. Now that person has failed to pay the fine. So that person will be imprisoned in default of payment of such fine. But such term that has been awarded in default of payment of fine will not exceed 1/4 of the term of imprisonment that is maximum fixed for the offence. So the maximum term of imprisonment was 10 years. So the imprisonment that is awarded against the default of payment of fine will not be more than 1/4, that is will not be more than 2.5 years. If the actual punishment of imprisonment is 10 years, then 1/4 of that, that is 2.5 years. that will be the maximum amount of term of imprisonment in default of payment of fine. Now section 66 talks about description of imprisonment for non-payment of fine. The imprisonment which the court imposes in default of payment of a fine may be of any description to which the offender might have been sentenced for the offence. So basically it says that the imprisonment that the court is imposing in default of payment of fine may be of any description. So it may be a simple imprisonment or a rigorous imprisonment. The court has the power to award such. Now section 67 talks about imprisonment for non-payment of fine when offence punishable with fine only. So if the offence is punishable with fine only, so no imprisonment is there, the punishment of that offence is solely based on fine, then the imprisonment which the court will impose in default of payment of that fine shall be simple. So it will always be a simple imprisonment. And the term for which the court directs the offender to be imprisoned in default of payment of fine shall not exceeding the following scale. So what is that scale? That is to say, for a term not exceeding 2 months, when the amount of fine shall not exceed 50 rupees. So if the maximum amount of fine that is to be imposed upon such offender is 50 rupees, then in default of payment of that fine, the person will be imprisoned for a maximum period of 2 months. And for any term not exceeding 4 months, when the amount of fine shall not exceed 100 rupees. So the same thing will happen in case of any punishment that will inflict a fine of a maximum of 100 rupees. In that case, in default of that payment of fine, the imprisonment will be a maximum of 4 months, and for 6 months in other cases. So anything that exceeds a fine of 100 rupees, in default of payment of that fine, the maximum term of imprisonment will be 6 months. Now section 68 talks about imprisonment to terminate on payment of fine. So the imprisonment which is imposed in default of payment of fine shall terminate whenever the fine is either paid or levied by process of law. So as soon as the fine is paid or it is levied, the imprisonment that was inflicted in default of payment of that fine will terminate. Now section 69 talks about termination of imprisonment on payment of proportional part of fine. It says that if before the expiration of the term of imprisonment fixed in default of payment, such a proportion of the fine be paid or levied that the term of punishment suffered in default of payment is not less than the proportional to that part of the fine still unpaid, the imprisonment shall terminate. I am giving you a short example to help you understand this. Say for example, the punishment was a fine of 100 rupees. Now that person failed to pay the fine. So he was imprisoned for a term of a maximum of 4 months. Now that person, after serving 2 months in the prison, he paid 50 rupees and demanded that since I have served half of the time of 4 months, that is I have served 2 months of imprisonment, and now I have paid the rest of the fine, that is 50 rupees, that is the half of the fine that was inflicted upon me. So that person will be released, or the imprisonment of that person will terminate from that point, because he has made a part payment of that fine and the rest of the due fine was already served by that person in prison for 2 months. So this is how the provision of section 69 works. Let's move on to section 70. It talks about fine leviable within 6 years of during imprisonment, death not to discharge property from liability. So it says that the fine or any part thereof which still remains unpaid may be levied at the time within 6 years after the passing of the sentence, and if under the sentence the offender be liable to imprisonment for a longer period than 6 years, then at any time previous to the expiration of that period and the death of the offender does not discharge from the liability any property which would after his death be legally liable for his debts. So basically this section says that any fine or part of fine will be levied within 6 years of passing the sentence. So the time period of levying a fine will be 6 years from the passing of the sentence. And if the person or the offender is imprisoned for a term that is longer than 6 years, then at any time prior to the expiration of that period, such fine will be levied from him. And in case if the offender dies before levying the amount, then that will not discharge him from the liability, and his property will be legally liable for his debts. Now section 71 talks about limit of punishment of offence made up of several offences. It says where anything which is an offence that is made up of parts, and any of such part is itself an offence, then the offender shall not be punished with the punishment of more than one of such offences unless it is so expressly provided. So basically it says that where the offence is formed by many parts and such part are itself offences, then the offender shall not be punished with punishment of more than one of such offences unless it is so expressly provided. So it will be expressly provided by this code. If it is not expressly provided by this code, then it will not be done in that way. Now where anything is an offence falling within two or more separate definitions of any law in force for the time being by which offences are defined or punished, or where several acts of which one or more than one would by itself or themselves constitute an offence, constitute when combined a different offence, then in all these cases the offender shall not be punished with a more severe punishment than the court which tries him could award for any of such offences. So when the offence that is committed by a offender falls within the definition of more than one offence, and where several such acts would themselves constitute an offence when combined into a different offence. So in these cases the offenders will not be punished with a more severe punishment than which the court that is trying him could award such punishment of that offence. Now section 72 talks about punishment of person guilty of one of several offences, the judgment stating that it is doubtful of which. So in all cases in which judgment is given that a person is guilty of one of several offences specified in the judgment, but that it is doubtful of which of these offences he is guilty. So say for example there is a offence that has been committed by a number of persons, say for example 5 persons. Now out of those 5 persons, one person has only committed a particular part of the offence, but the court itself is in doubt as to which part of such offence was committed by that person. Then in these cases the offender shall be punished for the offence for which the lowest punishment is provided if the same punishment is not provided for all. So where the punishment is not provided for all, then the lowest punishment that is provided in the same offence, that will be awarded to that person whose offence was not particularly categorized as to which part of that offence was committed by this person. Now let's move on to section 73 that talks about solitary confinement. It is a very important section, so I have highlighted this. It says that whenever any person is convicted of an offence for which under this code the court has the power to sentence him to rigorous imprisonment, the court may by its sentence order that the offender shall be kept in solitary confinement for any portion or portions of the imprisonment to which he is sentenced, not exceeding 3 months in the whole, according to the following scale. So first understand what is solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is a particular part of imprisonment that is awarded to the offender, and in that period of imprisonment that offender has to stay in a very small cell, and during that time of imprisonment he is not allowed to come in contact of anybody. That is a solitary confinement. That person is confined in a very solitary environment. He is not allowed to meet any person. So this is a very harsh kind of punishment, and that is why it is not awarded more than 3 months. That also according to the following scale, which is a time not exceeding 1 month if the term of imprisonment shall not exceed 6 months. So if the total imprisonment is of 6 months, then the maximum time period for solitary confinement will be 1 month. and a time not exceeding 2 months if the term of imprisonment shall exceed 6 months and shall not exceed 1 year. So if the total imprisonment is for any term between 6 months and 1 year, then the maximum time period for solitary confinement will be awarded not exceeding 2 months, and a time not exceeding 3 months if the term of imprisonment shall exceed 1 year. So in any case of imprisonment that exceeds 1 year of a total imprisonment, then within that solitary confinement will be awarded for a maximum period of 3 months. Now section 74 talks about limit of solitary confinement. It says, in executing a sentence of solitary confinement, such confinement shall in no case exceed 14 days at a time. So section 73 says that the maximum period of solitary confinement will be 1 month when the actual imprisonment does not exceed 6 months, and it will be 2 months when the actual imprisonment is within 6 months to 1 year, and it shall not exceed 3 months where the imprisonment is for any term exceeding 1 year. But the limit of solitary confinement at a time will be for 14 days, not more than that, with intervals between periods of solitary confinement of not less duration than such periods. And when the imprisonment awarded shall exceed 3 months, the solitary confinement shall not exceed 7 days in any 1 month of the whole imprisonment awarded, with intervals between the periods of solitary confinement of not less duration than such period. So section 74 basically gives us the idea as to how the provisions of solitary confinement is inflicted. So it will not be more than 14 days at a time where it is below 3 months in total, and where the imprisonment is more than 3 months, then the solitary confinement will be inflicted for a period not more than 7 days at a time. So basically it is the power of the courts to award a solitary confinement, but it is not the power of the prison authority to award a solitary confinement. However, there is a question of constitutional validity of solitary confinement, and it is also a topic that had been discussed in the UN Council of Human Rights multiple times as to whether solitary confinement shall be thought to be deprivation of right to life or not. Generally, solitary confinement is not awarded by any court presently, but as we can see, we have that provision in the Indian Penal Code. Now let's move on to the last section, that is section 75. It talks about enhanced punishment for certain offences under chapter 12 or chapter 17 after previous conviction. Whoever having been convicted by a court in India of an offence punishable under chapter 12 or chapter 17 of this code with imprisonment of either description for a term of 3 years or upwards shall be guilty of any offence punishable under either of those chapters with like imprisonment for the like term, shall be subject for every such subsequent offence to imprisonment for life or to imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years. So basically it talks about habitual offenders, and it provides enhanced punishment for persons who committed certain offences for more than once. So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.